In this first episode of our webinar series, Glowdom and Eduix Leveraging the Digital Ecosystem for Education in Namibia, Lais Oliveira Leite, education consultant, briefly presented what is digitization of education management and a roadmap on how to implement it. Then, Rami Heinisuo, Eduix CEO and Founder, reported his views on enforced remote education in Finland during the COVID-19 pandemic and how digitized education management supported this process. Finally, Sebulon, Glowdom CEO and Founder, shared his experiences on leveraging education in Namibia by digitizing education management, approaching both successes and challenges along the way. So I will start recording our session. And yes, let's start. This webinar series, it's a joint effort from Glowdom and Eduix, who have joined forces to provide a national grade education digitalization ecosystem for Namibia. Eduix is the leading education software ecosystem in Finland, with 90% of Finnish higher education institutions using its edutech solutions. And Glowdom has advanced the quality of education in Africa through local capacity building and relevant education technology solutions. Since 2012, Glowdom projects have advanced the quality of education for over 40 schools in Namibia. And now they want to transform the way information is managed at all levels of education in Namibia. Just now I hear that I see that Ina cannot hear something. Can someone give another feedback if you can hear me?
Yes, Lais, we can hear you.
Okay, so, okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay, so maybe Ina, maybe your audio system needs to be changed, the setting maybe. Okay, so Eduix and Glowdom goals is to change the way school and student management and related services are done in the country. And we are aiming to pave the way for modern and simple to use digital platforms and genuine tools for self-leadership, where each stakeholder can enjoy up-to-date and highly accessible information and base their decisions on the facts that it can be drawn from this information. So let's start. My name is Lais Oliveira Leite. I'm from Brazil, and I am the moderator of the first episode of our webinar series, Digitizing Education Management, with the participation of Rami Heinisuo, CEO and founder of Eduix in Finland, and Sebulon David, CEO and founder of Glowdom in Namibia. But before I pass the stage to our speakers, I would like to introduce a little bit about the topic of today, focusing on what is digitization of education management. And in practical terms, let me start the presentation mode. In practical terms, digitization means putting everything that is written and documented in a paper to electronic format. However, I like very much what Anssi Paavola, a school principal from Finland, said about digitization as a way to make lasting change, like developing the local community in relation with the rest of the world, and so broaden our view of the world surrounding us. So beyond this practical and concrete meaning that we are trying to transition what is in the paper to an electronic format, to a digital and virtual format, we want to transform the education paradigm of the schools, trying to connect globally to the agents that are relevant for us and changing the surrounding community. So why would it be relevant to digitize education management at the school level, because bringing all this data and information that is piling over papers and stored in folders over years that sometimes it's even lost, it gives more accessibility of this data over time when we just add this to a digital format. And also it enhances accuracy, because now the data is not lost, the data is well saved and stored, and the data is as precise as it was saved in the virtual storage. And this allows, with over time, this allows more precise and smarter decisions. Also, because data is being saved, collected, and analyzed over time, admins can monitor, can track better teacher performance, students' learning, and also coordinator tasks. And because the digitization of data and this analysis process becomes integrated between all the stakeholders, the labor divisions between teachers and coordinators and admins become blurred. So sometimes now, tasks that teachers needed to first contact the administrators to make a decision, now the teachers can do it by themselves with the digitized system, and vice versa for the admins as well. And all of these bring transparency to the community and also improves homeschool collaboration, because in a digitized system, parents have a direct communication channel with the teachers. Teachers can give feedback about the children's learning to the parents directly, and so on. And bringing this digitization process from the local to the regional and national level, it's a bottom-up and top-down process. From the local level, we have a change in the school cultures, because we are transitioning to an integrated digital school ecosystem that improves the habits, the practice, and mindsets of the stakeholders. And at the regional level, it's possible to build up data and analyze this information into meaningful decisions, and then you can have a systematic data collection to make better decisions at the regional and national level. And how this can be done? Well, it can be chaotic, it can bring stress because it is a change, but it can be very well done if we manage to do it through small steps, steady but fast. Because when many changes are coming, it's important that the participants and stakeholders still feel control over what is going on and what are the changes. So that's why it's important that we have small steps in a steady way. But this transition will overlap traditional practices of communications, of labor decisions, and bring new methods over it. So it's very common that the old and the new will be overlapping during this transition. And this transition involves a lot of experimentation, a lot of repetition, and demands patience and commitment. And it gets to the better level when the stakeholders are collaborating together. So I have here a very simple suggestion of roadmap, just for you to consider how it can be done in case you're interested to bring this change to your education institution. First of all, it's very important to assess the needs of the administrators, the school coordinators, the teachers and students, and create rapport between the participants to consolidate teamwork. And many of these stakeholders can have prejudice and stereotypes against the use of technology. So it's important to understand the mindset and maybe need it. And this can be done, for instance, allowing more free time for the teachers to get contact with the computers, the laptops, and even their mobile phone. And then it's important to understand what the school already has, how many computers, what the softwares the computers have, what is the quality of the internet connectivity, is it possible to use the mobile phone of the students, of the staff, and so on. And then the team can create a roadmap of those transitions with experimentations and repetitions, always paying attention for those stakeholders, for those teachers, and for those managers who are very active and have the power to take the lead, but also to teach others who might be lagging behind. And finally, we hope that this opens up the school for improved education processes and maybe open the doors of the school to the community to also enjoy the benefits of digitalization. And the contrary, that the school can take the help of the municipality, can go to the libraries and so on to enjoy the community resources. So just to end my speech, I would like to state that the process of digitization is an interactive process. It involves all school stakeholders and needs design, planning, deployment, and feedback. And during this development and the delivery, these things goes together. So it's a cycle of constant education development. But as a benefit, this will bring more data accessibility, more efficiency in collecting information to make decisions. So now I would like to give the stage to Rami. Rami Heinisuo is the founder and CEO of Eduix. He is a father of 2 lovely teenagers and a writer at large. He made his first piece of software in the 80s. He started Eduix at the age of 23, and he has been learning new skills on 5 decades. In his own words, he is open to new ideas, approachable, focused, and persistent. So please, Rami, I will mic my phone and the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Lais, for this lovely introduction. And also a big thanks for the content you created and went through in a really short time. I was asked by the host, meaning Lais, to give a short status report on the effects of this these COVID incidents in Finland and in the education sector and what it means in terms of education digitalization and how has this had an effect on things. I'll first start with a sort of a status report from the situation in Finland regarding these epidemic situations. And the thing is that we apparently in Finland managed to dodge this pandemic with only a handful of casualties in Finland by basically laying low. And laying low comes quite naturally with Finns because we're not that sort of outspoken and all over the place kind of people. Currently, we're enjoying summer in Finland, and that usually means 4 weeks of consecutive summer holiday for the majority of people. So it's quite quiet at the office currently. The timeline of the events after this pandemic came about in Finland was that officials here decided to change into remote mode of learning on 23rd of March. That's approximately 3 months ago. And the close down of schools as buildings lasted less than 2 months in Finland, and they were reopened during the last 2 school weeks of the spring semester. Right now, the Finnish schools are in complete holiday mode for 2.5 months during the summer, basically from 1st of June to 15th of August. And this gives us a bit of a perspective on the sort of the effects of the pandemic as well. Every year in Finland, we have a total pause of schooling during the summer vacation that is actually longer in duration than the close down of schools during this lockdown. So despite the fact that it was strange, it was scary, it was difficult, it was sort of uncertain times, we still pulled through, and I think we're much stronger also now regarding quite many things. Some consequences of this sort of first ever shock shakedown of educational traditions and structures in this day and age were, from our point of view, it meant really busy times for a company like Eduix, who is deeply involved sort of in all things digital around education, as the importance of interoperable digital tools was greatly amplified. It also meant many new responsibilities for the pupils and students, way more independent working than ever before. That also, of course, provides opportunities to grow as students, as people. It also imposed new responsibilities for parents in Finland, as many parents, especially with small children, were basically acting as proxies of the teachers at home. The focus was very much on sort of coping under the situation, sort of hoping for everything to blow over soon. And lucky for us, in a Finnish perspective, it sort of did blow over, at least for now. But it also meant somewhat lowering of the level of commitment to schoolwork and so that the requirements level for school work. And the rationale for that being the sort of idea or notion that learning is actually suboptimal if it happens outside the physical classroom. I'm not buying into that completely, but of course it has a meaning when you have a group of people in a same room with all the group dynamics. Teachers with better ICT skills and interest in those fared, of course, much better than teachers without those skills and interest, which meant sort of a quite serious inequality issues for pupils as well. With this pandemic, we were actually given a test bed of resilience and capacity for change. And we are coming out of this with much stronger skill set and motivation on how to use these digital tools for real and how to build digital ecosystems to support learning on local, regional, and national level. So from my perspective and from our perspective, there's also many good things coming out from an ordeal of this magnitude. So, and the lessons learned so far, this might sound a bit naive, but I truly think that every problem acts as a catalyst for change. We know it from our small problems in our own lives to the big problems in the world, that they usually doesn't take that long time to come up with solutions as long as we have problems. And I've also often congratulated myself that as long as there are problems in the world, I have some work to do still. The lesson was also that the laws and the bylaws governing education, especially here in Finland, and governing the tasks for institutions are way too rigid and really focused on preserving traditional ways of schooling instead of allowing and augmenting these new ways of working at school to be developed, discussed, and implemented. So it was actually the non-resiliency was actually built into the system because everyone just thought that we're fine, we're just fine like this, so we don't need to change that much and not that fast anyway. In primary education, in the Nordic Finnish perspective, nobody had even studied how things could be organized in remote mode digitally, because the law here stated that primary education must take place in a classroom environment. So this kind of remote schooling wasn't even legal before this situation. There's some rationale behind it and a tradition, but I won't go deeper into that now. It would definitely be an understatement to say that this lockdown was a true eye-opener for everybody, especially in relation to how to really and efficiently take into use these digital tools. Many parents, teachers, parents like me, teachers, students, really savored the experience as well and dove deeper into the utilization of these digital tools, many of which had been available but maybe taken for granted and focusing just on the classroom experience of teaching. Admittedly, at times this savoring was a bit like savoring the experience of dipping into icy cold water. So the shock comes first and the savor comes perhaps a bit after that. We also realized all over the world that the telecom and datacom infrastructure needs to be top-notch. The connections, the connectivity needs to be resilient as well, and there's need to be ample additional capacity available to cope with these suddenly increasing demands for traffic management on the networks during these lockdowns. And sort of a almost last but not least, our sort of field where we are working, the digital tools in education, in schools, in administration need to be extremely well orchestrated and automatized to the full extent possible. There should not be any separate islands of solutions for administration and for learning, as these need to work really tightly together throughout the society. And lucky for us, that is something that we've been doing in Finland for the last 5 years, almost full time, making things work together interchangeably without sort of unnecessary hurdles to hinder us. That was mainly what I had in mind today, and I'm really hoping a lot from the next episodes of this series of webinars and to really dig also deeper into these subjects one by one and learning from these experiences. The terms and ways of digitalization and how the solutions differ are culture dependent, and they also, you got the customs and you have the different kinds of legislation, etc. I personally have a lot of common with Sebulon, and we share the same reservedness as Maria and Tinda put it to words nicely. We also share a vision and see us truly complementing each other. And these are the reasons why Eduix is investing heavily now into partnership with Glowdom, and together I see that we form a very strong and capable team for really pushing the boundaries of practical digitalization in education further and further. The COVID situation has, of course, provided sort of additional eye-opening leeway and headroom for connecting these dots between digital tools and people. But I think now we just, all of us just need to roll up our sleeves and really get our hands dirty. So there's a lot of work to be done to actually make these things reality. And I'll pass the microphone to you then, Sebulon, and thanks very much from my part.
Yes, thank you, Rami, so much for your contributions. And I would like then to present our other guest, Sebulon David. Sebulon is the CEO and founder of Glowdom. He's passionate about social economic development and building products that make a difference in people's lives. He is a visionary entrepreneur striving to advance quality education in Namibia and always curious about better ways to do things and innovation. So please, Sebulon, turn on your mic and turn on your video so we can all see you. And welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much, Lais and Rami, for the great presentations. And my job here today is very, very easy because I'm going to be tying what Lais has presented and what Rami has presented in the very practical way. I met Rami we're supposed actually to meet for business matchmaking in Windhoek, and unfortunately Rami got ill during his visit to Namibia, and we're not able to meet. But one thing that happened is that we kept communicating through emails and all other various platforms, and we then realized that we are actually working towards one goal. We want to change societies. We want to make a difference, and we want to add value. And we have these ambitious goals of transforming education at all levels, and more especially focusing on data and really giving people this enough information and data to make decisions at all levels. So this has also then led to my visit in Finland, and we then discussed together our ambitious goals and so much in common, and we realized also that we could leverage different networks and join hands, and also bring in people as catalysts to strengthen the efforts. So that's kind of like the background where we kind of coming from, and we have so many players now that are coming on board at all different levels, and we have a network of schools that is building up right now in Namibia, where we're working with various schools and different levels of education ecosystem, like working with the leaderships, the boards and the leaderships of the schools. And we've started engaging schools in different regions across the country. We have schools like, for example, in Erongo region, and we also have schools in Khomas and also Oshana region. We have schools in Ohangwena region. We have schools in Umsati regions, and so on. And the number of schools have started increasing. We have about 20 schools that we are currently working with, and we have a list of expressions of interest for various schools to join the program, and I would also want to explain what it is that we are working on exactly. So in our discussion with Rami is that we realize that there is a need to build an education software ecosystem that will address all challenges at all different levels. But this includes the angle of also manpower and people on the ground who can and really be able to drive the implementation of these practical things, which is even much amplified by COVID-19. And we have a series of different various platforms and softwares that are proven in Finland, and they are used by various institutions in Finland. And our role as Glowdom is really to tailor-make these solutions, customize them, identify the needs on the ground, and really tailor-make the solutions to the local needs, and then also at the same time deploy the solutions to the various customers and stakeholders. And what we are also doing in the process is that we are doing action research. We are creating evidences that really supports the efforts. We want to make sure that we are also documenting the process as we are going, and we welcome other players to come on board as well and do their part. And our efforts are touching pretty much all levels, in the sense that we include and we want to create values for the guardians and the parents of the learners, and we also want to create value for the students to make sure that they have better learning, but also elevating it also to the teachers level as well. The platforms are being used by the teachers as well to work with each other. Like, for example, a case of when COVID-19 hit the country at the beginning, is that people have to work from home, but we did not understand what working from home means even. And there was a lot of things that needed to change. The cultural mindset had to also shift. People have to change how they do things, and issues of internet connectivity was so high, and even the availability of devices as well. People had devices, but then also even they know how to use the device, and leveraging the device in the education setting was not really, as now starting to pick up now. But one of the things that we are also looking at is making sure that the regional levels, as they are managing all these pool of schools, that there are systems in place to manage the data in these schools, to actually be able to understand what is really going on in the school settings. And what we have realized is that most of the leadership and the management of the schools, their time is usually taken up by most of the systems that most of the processes that could be automated, and it's repetitive tasks that are doing on the daily basis. And the leaders and the managers that we have started working for the respective schools that we are working with have started innovating around and being creative about using the tools. Then from what, for example, the tools are used in Finland. I'll give an example of, let's say, a certain principal from one of the schools has started using the tool to send out his letters that he used to write by hand and then distribute, give the letters to the students. He's now able to have the letters created with one of the products that we are using during COVID-19 called FormJack. And they are then able to send out the letters through a simple link that they can easily paste on any platform, whether it's an SMS or whether it's pasting it in the WhatsApp groups and so on, the various groups that the schools are using. And also at the national level, we want them to have, when the regions are using the digital tools and the platforms, then that makes also the workload at the national levels much easier. And these collections of data and the availability and the access of data then helps with decision making and so on. And one of the things that we also realized during COVID-19, with these amplifications of the use of technology and the integration of technology in the classrooms and so on, is that there wasn't a big issue when it comes to homeschool collaborations, and it's still happening. And the thing is, we have schools now that are printing out massive papers that they have. The parents have to collect these papers, or they would send the materials to the parents, and the parents are also then put in a position where they have to print out all these bulk of papers, and it's overhead cost for everyone involved, and it's a pain for everyone involved. It's a pain for that school, it's a pain for the homes and the parents and so on. And we strongly feel that with these tools that we have started and the process that the teachers are involved in identifying and leveraging the platforms to see how they can solve the pain point on the ground with the ecosystem is really amazing. So a practical example of, let's say, how the homeschool collaboration is that usually the management defines the objectives of the subjects that the teachers are teaching. And this is the layer of the HODs and so on. And the respective teachers are able then to use the platforms to create the content. And the content is then forwarded to the homes using the platform, and the parents, like in most cases now, we have realized also in the processes we are doing this, that parents are the ones that are having devices, and very few students are having access to devices on the ground. And what these tools has also enabled during COVID-19 is that the parents are able to receive the work from the school, and they are able to then access the materials and then help the students access the materials. And then the students are able then to do the work at home and then forward the work to the school, which the teachers have access to, and they are able to process this. All these processes are done in the system. And it's amazing also to see how the different dynamics in the class, in the country, different regions and different schools plays a big role. And that was interesting to see as we are rolling out this digital transformation project. You'd find some schools have quality internet, for example, or access to internet, and then some schools do not have access to internet and so on. But still, even with the challenges that are there, the schools and the teachers are trying to see how they can work with the limited resources that they are having. And we know that we are all caught off guard by this, that the ministry is also making efforts in place, and we see on the different publications and news the efforts that are being put in place to make sure that institutions and the schools having resources and so on. But one thing that we've also realized is that in the process is that most of the teachers and most of the parents already have the device. The issue was then to change the use of the device. Instead of, let's say, people being, let's say, on Facebook or other platforms, for example, they could then leverage their devices in the use of education and their advancements of the teaching and learning in collaborating between the schools and the homes and so on. That was really interesting to see. And what we have started seeing also is that the teachers are really creating content and in the platforms. And some of them have even started recording their own videos with cell phones and then incorporating these videos, these lessons onto the platforms that they are able to easily send to the homes, regardless with the challenges that are there with the internet and so on. They are doing. We are seeing a lot of commitments and the determination from the teachers and so on. And what we have also seen from the leadership point of view is that there are schools, especially the private schools, that we are working with, they make effort to give data to the students. And I think as part of the ministry efforts, providing affordable access to internet to schools, I think is one of the key things that has really came to our attention to see that the leadership and the management are making effort, but they have limited. They can only go as far as they can, but they need those little push to make the whole ecosystem work. And one of the things that is also very important is just to explain that or emphasize that the model that Lais presented, the SAML model, the one that starts with a very easy to use practical solutions that really make a difference, is really handy when it comes to this process. It's very important that we start very simple to use applications that motivates the people that this thing works. And that's what we've seen with this process, that we are seeing the process, increasing the use of the systems, increasing. People are creating different forms and so on, because they are able to see the instant results, and they are then encouraged to build the next platform and the next service and so on. Because what this platform that we are testing out right now is that it allows and it gives the teachers the power to create. So it instead of just the teacher, for example, having the syllabus and then creating their lesson plans the manual way, but it then gives the teachers that opportunity where they kind of have the hybrid combo of the two worlds. It allows them to take what they are already doing traditional and just add efficiency into it, so that then if they usually take, let's say, 10 minutes, now they are able to take, let's say, 3 minutes. And this allows them time to focus the energy on other things that are also needing their time and so on. So our process takes a couple of weeks that we are working with a specific project, and every project is every school is treated as a project on its own, where a specific board is created that has all the things, all the issues that needs to be resolved as we are running the project, and we are keeping track of these of the process as we are doing the digitalization, so helping the schools with the digitalization process. So the first part is that we kick off with various workshops, but before we do the workshops, we do the assessments of the skills level of the teachers. And by so doing is that we are able to see what kind of program are we going to adjust to helping the school. We have 3 categories. We have the basics, we have the intermediate, and we have the advanced level. And we also have a program that is shortened in case the people are already advanced level users of computers and digital, having digital skills, then we only have to take them through the short program, which is a couple of days. However, the opportunity that we have right now is really to analyze data from different schools in different regions, and we are starting to understand the landscapes on the ground and what are they. And also recently we've started now also working with vocational training centers in addressing the issues of data at different levels. And it has been an amazing journey, and I think my time is up, Lais. Thank you so much. That is basically what I wanted to share with you. And just to add that the platform is and the ecosystem is creating real job opportunities, and we have created so far 9 jobs with this ecosystem, and we're still looking to create more jobs for especially software developers and people who understand education processes. Thank you, Lais.
Thank you, Sebulon, so much for all these considerations. And I would like to start the questions and answers session. Please, all the participants who are with us, feel very welcome to write down your questions in the chat so I can gather them and ask to our participants. But for now, I would like to ask first to Sebulon. You mentioned briefly about the digital gap. So you mentioned that some schools face some not good internet connectivity or lack of devices. And how are you managed to tackle these limited resources? How are you? You mentioned that the students and the parents have already some devices, and this is a strategy. And what are the other strategies or other actions that you're taking to tackle these limited resources in some of the schools, so we reduce this digital gap?
Excuse me, Lais?
Yes? Sebulon?
Yes, could you repeat what you said? I think I missed what you said.
Okay, so my question is...
Make it a bit shorter repetition.
Yes, don't worry. Yes, so my question is about the digital gap that you briefly mentioned in your speech, that some schools have limited internet connectivity, and this can be a setback to this digitization process. So how are you tackling the limited resources of some schools?
Right. One of the things that we have realized is, as we are talking to the schools and working with the schools and in different parts of the country, is that the dynamics are very, very different in the sense that some the school might be having devices, but the devices are just laying, for example, somewhere in the storeroom, for example, or maybe the device just needs a little bit of a repair or an operating systems to be installed in and so on. So as we are engaging the schools, we are also providing these consulting in the form of advising them as in what it is that they can do with the devices that they already have, for example. And then the other thing is that we are also advising them to look at the various options in how they can manage the crisis of devices and the connectivities by, let's say, looking at the affordable computers, like, for example, Raspberry Pis, and so on. And this has helped a lot of schools to realize that there are better opportunities out there instead of buying a computer that's, for example, a branded computer that is worth, let's say, close to 10,000 Namibian dollars. That they can easily shrink their budget, purchase the computers at an affordable price with the minimum budget that they have. But the other thing that is there is that we have teachers and the management that are making efforts that if the school is very far from where the connectivity is, for example, they would go to a nearby town, for example, and try to get access to the resources, the internet connectivity, for them to be able to then connect to the training or the facilitators of the training that are going on right now. And just to emphasize also, like, just to bring up this part also, is that we have the on-site training and then we have the virtual trainings going on. And that's how we are also cutting down the budget, to say that in the past, most of the trainings were like we had to take the teachers to a specific place. But these trainings that are going on they are taking place virtual, and this cuts a lot of costs in the continuous professional development for teachers, and also having access to these platforms that they don't really have to pay anything. So far, it's been like we are dealing with the COVID-19 as part of our social responsibility of Glowdom and Eduix.
Okay, yes, thank you. And for Rami, if you would like to comment also on that question, but I would like to ask another question from your speech. You also mentioned more in the, let's say, in the home environment, because of the remote education that schools were forced to engage in, and now the children were learning at home with the support of the parents. You mentioned that a lot of independent work needed to be done. That from one side, it can be very demanding, but it also promotes growth. So can you expand a little bit on this?
Well, I saw this, thank you, Lais, for the question, because I really wanted to answer this question. So you probably had some kind of premonition about this. And it's of course due to the fact that I had my son, he's in the eighth grade, so he's 15 years old, and he's sort of pre-teenager, and I was really scared that although he's been doing rather well at school, that I was afraid that he would be sort of playing computer games all day, all night long, when the school days weren't sort of so specific and so well defined during this home learning period. But what I actually saw was that when you give people responsibility, they sort of rise up to this occasion, and they start acting in a sort of right way, in the correct way, and perhaps not in the way that people anticipate they would be doing. And I, of course, I've seen this from my working life, that when you give people responsibilities and trust them, they perform really well. But for somehow I sort of could not apply this to my own family situation as well. So I was a bit skeptic or scared that this doesn't work at all. So, and I was sort of prepared to monitor the whole learning with him. But suddenly I just realized that he's doing actually quite well and quite okay. But I of course realized that the sort of the situation was very good. The connectivity was there. He had a decent computer to actually look at all the tasks and see the video recordings and sessions, etc. So, but I'm still sort of quite convinced that what I said earlier, that every sort of problem is just a building ground for solutions. And so this comes from personal life, but also from society and also from the work life, and I see all these things sort of moving into the right direction due to these changes in how the fundamentals of the world have changed.
Okay, thank you very much. And Edwin Zacarias made a question. Here it is. Hi to all. This is quite an informative webinar. I would like to know whether the Eduix program is available in other European countries as well. How broad is it at the moment?
Eduix, although we've been sort of doing stuff since the 1990s, the early internet, we were really focused on the domestic market and somewhat to the Nordic market in Denmark and Sweden, and up until sort of 1.5 years ago, when we really shifted our strategy and shifted our goals and started looking sort of over the border and overseas, and this was probably due to quite many things that we were doing really well, sort of business-wise and financially, and we had interesting things to do and nice rewarding and demanding customers as well. But we realized that we have and want to offer more as well, and we have more to offer. And so we have been sort of making different kinds of sort of adventures, I would say in the sort of almost neighboring countries, and we even had a person working in the Netherlands for a year, and we have been going about looking on how our solutions that come from a pretty Finnish perspective and unrelated to very much the Finnish way of running education. How does that work, and where does that work? But when you look at the Europe from a Finnish perspective, it's a big and a very diverse market where each of the countries inside the European Union are also sort of very, I would call it still protective of their own environment, but it's not protective in a way that they don't want new views or new angles on things. It's protective in a way that they have also their own traditions and our own older ways of working, and we also see that the demand and interest for our solutions has increased sort of almost tenfold after this sort of COVID incidents came about. So it has very much broadened the people's view on seeing this market and these solutions also from a new perspective as well, broader perspective.
Okay, thank you. And we have also another question by Heinrich Aluvilu to Glowdom. Is there a central platform that connects all stakeholders who are interested in in collaborating in building local solutions? And how are the local tech communities responding to this innovative space? Are they keen?
Right. To answer that is that one of the things that we have started doing is that we've started creating internships programs for the graduate students and the university students, so that then they can explore the tools and learn how to use the tools and so on. So we created a workplace where we are bringing a network of teachers who are motivated and driven in the use of or the advancements of digitalizations in the country, and also then the software developers, so that then they have a workplace where they can share ideas and look at not only what is there, but what are the additions based on the needs that are arising, and so on. And interesting enough is that we having a lot of a growing number of people that are interested in joining the learning community, and we are starting to see also that the teachers also, they are starting to develop a way of creating, and also realizing that the teachers have so much ideas that they were just lacking they only missed or they just had a lack of resources when it comes to the technical professionals to share ideas and then to co-create and co-design these solutions and so on. So we are seeing a lot of people as they are starting to understand how this ecosystem is rolling out and unfolding as time goes by. And what we have also started doing is that we have spoken to various institutions in the country, and there are programs like, for example, that are supporting edutech initiatives. But what we have realized is that the practical side of things, there is or there was something missing where people could test their ideas, or they could build on in terms of infrastructure. And this is what really this ecosystem is providing. It allows people, it takes out all these costs that the person needs to have a lot of money for them to test out certain things. But the platform is already online. They can work and learn from anywhere. We have young people that are working from home now, and getting paid, working from home, and so on. So I think it's a new way of thinking and a new way of doing things, and it's really been welcomed at all different levels. And we want to do more and have a greater impact.
Okay, thank you, Sebulon, very much for this answer. I think we came to a time to finish our first episode, but I believe it was quite productive and we had very interesting contributions from the participants and from our audience. Thank you very much for all our questions. Rami, would you like to finish the moment with a final comment, quote, or what is your final contribution?
That was a sort of a big thing to say to me. What's my final contribution? I think my final contribution is 20 years from now or something like that, like, or 30, hopefully. But my sort of intermediate contribution would be that please send me questions, messages, and suggestions also on how you would like to see things improving. And I have plenty of experience and sort of also insight into things, but as I also mentioned in the chat, things need to be inviting, innovative, and interesting. It doesn't sort of pay off to just say that we're open for everybody or everything. We need to also make sure that to whom we are open, we can also make sure that they get something out of it, because there are so many clubs and societies and initiatives that are sort of everybody can join. But what's the point of joining if it doesn't sort of bring something more and something in depth in ways of development and innovations. Thank you so much, everybody. Looking forward to meeting you and seeing you again.
And what about you, Sebulon? What are your, I won't say final, but ending, how can I say?
Right, Lais. This is really exciting because for dreamers, in Namibia, we have so many people that are dreaming to see this thing come to fruition, to come to reality. And for many years, we have been visualizing certain things, and we thought that we are just dreaming. And some people might be wondering, why is the ecosystem called AHA ecosystem? It's those moments that when we are discussing with Rami, is that we're bringing the future closer. It was those aha moments that way, those realizations to say it can be done. Yes, this can be done. And what I would really wish and hope for is more engagement and more players, the right players to come on board and work together and collaborate at all different angles, because this is not only an Eduix or Glowdom fight. This is us making a difference together. And it requires all players of all, we are calling on content creators, we are calling on developers, we're calling on education processes to come on board and work with us. The vision is there, we've casted the vision, and we are working towards that with very practical evidence that we are bringing forth to show others and to say that, yes, it can be done. We can really transform our education system. And we should not look up to the government, for example, to create things. We should ask ourselves, what can we do for our government? So which means we are required to do more work, we are required to sacrifice more, so that then we show people that it can be done. So with a few words, that's what I would like to end with. Thank you so much, Lais, for the engagement.
Thank you very much. And finally, I would like to finish this, this session stressing that with all the crises brought by the COVID and chaos and intense distress and malfunctions to the education system worldwide, schools are also witnessing an intense reform that, when well administered and engaged by all stakeholders, including the leaders, teachers, parents, and the whole community, we have an opportunity to reposition school from a 19th century model to a globally connected and locally engaged 21st century paradigm. So, and considering that schools now are concentrating power to demand reliable, easy to learn, and curriculum-based edutech solutions, the next episode will bring our discussions a little bit more closer to the ground of the school. We will talk about the changing processes and the transformations on the teaching side. And we welcome all of you to join our second episode that will come in 2 weeks, but hopefully you will receive all the invitations and information later. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Lais. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.